Hey everybody. I've noticed on forums people do a lot of listings for the Looney Tunes collector's choices. Um but rarely anyone does YouTube videos about the collector's choice theory. So I'm going to do my own list for 25 cartoons for Looney Tunes Collector's Choice 4 because it was announced that Collector's Choice 4 is coming out in November. It was announced that today. So, a majority of these cartoons I have seen, some I haven't seen. So, uh, I tried to do a wide variety of both one shots and all stars from a variety of directors. Bob Clampett is not on here because Nutty News is about the only one of his cartoons that has not officially been released that could be released if you and come on, you know what I mean. That's not on here, but apart from that, many of the other directors are. So here's my idea for the 25 cartoons, and this is going in alphabetical order. First up is A Lad in His Lamp. If this cartoon is inappropriate, am I a jerk that I can't tell why? If it is inappropriate, I know the reason I've this cartoon is very weird because to me there's nothing offensive about it. Maybe it's because of the harem joke, maybe, but honestly that's about it. I can't really think of much more inappropriate. It's about Bugs Bunny and a genie in Baghdad. But there's nothing super offensive, at least not that I can tell. And if there is, comment below and let me know. This would be one of the two special cartoons that would be restored just for this collection. Obviously another one is coming up. Next up, Friz Freeling's debut with the Goofy Gophers in A Bone for a Bone. Their fourth effort, and I think I might have seen this one, but according to a Toonheads episode, Frizz made the Gophers even more polite than previously, which probably made it a lot funnier. Another Frizz Freeling one. This is one of his early color cartoons, and it's Beauty and the Beast from the 1930s. I believe it's his first cartoon that he directed by himself. So there you go for that one. Next up, this is one of the four double dips. I'm not sure if this one counts as a double dip though. Boston Quacky, starring Daffy and Porky. It's a parody of the TV show Boston Blackie. And this would be from the Stars of Space Jam VHS and DVD. However, that the problem is that one is produced in PAL speed, which is a sped up version of the cartoon. So yeah, it's been restored, but is it or yeah, it's been released, but unofficially, in my opinion. So I think that one should be on here. Next up is a precursor to Sylvester and Tweety cartoons starring a cat and a mouse, or cat and a bird, I apologize, called The Cagey Canary by Tex Avery. Oh, Boston Quacky and Aladdin His Lamp were directed by Robert McKimson, or Bob McKimson, as some of you like to say. Anyway, the reason why I said mouse is because the cat in this does not look like Sylvester. He looks like Tom from Tom and Jerry. Gray hair and everything. Next up, another one shot, also from Tex Avery, is Dangerous Dan McPhoo. Uh, this cartoon is most famous for being the original voice of Elmer Fudd. In volume 3, in A Feud There Was, it included like a very early version of Elmer where it said Elmer Fudd Peacemaker. This one, it's a dog, so it clearly doesn't look like Elmer, but it has the pardon me, but that's my goal. Hello. And I don't think there's anything offensive about this cartoon either, so That's why I'm including it. Next up, one of my favorite characters, Foghorn Leghorn, with Pappy and Elvis, directed by Robert McKimson, in The Dixie Friar as two chicken hawks going after Foghorn Leghorn. Uh, Pappy and Elvis were only in two cartoons, and the first was Backwoods Bunny, which is on the Bugs Bunny 80th anniversary collection. So, by including this one, it now finishes the Pappy and Elvis collection, as all the previous volumes, for the most part, have previously released or have previously finished collections, such as The Three Bears, Charlie Dog, The Wacky Worm. So, yeah. Oh, Hobo Bobo, that's another one. Next up is Doggone Modern. This is a kind of prototype. This is an earlier version of House Hunting Mice, where it involves two dogs basically going around a house of tomorrow. It's an earlier Chuck Jones, so it has slower pacing. But I'm including this one because honestly, I don't think there's anything inappropriate about it. It's been restored and everything. Fun fact, I originally wanted to have Flop Goes the Weasel, but then when I looked up that it contained some questionable content and wasn't restored, I decided to replace it with this much safer one. Next up is a double dip from the first Golden Collection, Dough for the Dodo. It was restored with the this version, and I believe Prime Video, either Prime Video or iTunes contains the original audio version. So I would like that version for this one. So that would be another one of the double dipping, and that is by First Freeling. Next up is Dr. Jekyll's Hide. Uh, this one is kind of similar to Tree for Two in that Sylvester drinks a potion which kind of turns him into a monster to kind of beat up the big bulldog, and then he goes back to normal when the little bulldog comes around, so as a result the big bulldog looks like a wimp. Um, Tree for Two was included on Platinum Collection Volume 3, which is gladly still available. So this would be completing the I know his name's Elf, but I'm gonna call it the Spike and Chester collection. Fun fact, I originally wanted to include Peck Up Your Troubles, but because the rule of only can restore two cartoons specifically, I had to replace it with Dr. Jekyll's Hide. Next up is a Robert McKimson cartoon, Easy Peckins. Kind of Robert McKimson's version of Ralph Wolf and Sam Sheepdog, where there's a fox trying to go after chickens, and there's a big rooster who's protecting the chickens. Uh, it has a lot of like weird gags. It plays the William Tell. It includes an egg that blows up. It includes filling a decoy chicken with dynamite. It's a pretty funny cartoon. McKimson can be hit and miss, especially well, depending on writers, but that one is a very solid cartoon. And again, I don't think there's anything inappropriate. Next up is a late 60s Daffy cartoon, and it does not co-star Speedy Gonzales. Fast Buck Duck. Kind of a version of kind of like Daffy Dilly, but also combining it with some Coyote and Roadrunner style gags where Daffy is trying to get to somebody, but he's being thwarted at every single time. Next up is a Chuck Jones Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon, Fastest with the Mostest. I'm gonna offend some of you, but honestly, how can you tell the difference between Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon? So, Fastest with the Mostest. Next up is the other Tom Turk cartoon, Holiday for Drumsticks, from Arthur Davis. The first one was included on the Porky Pig and Friends Hilarious Ham one, and it was called Tom Turk and Daffy, directed by Chuck Jones. This one is directed by Arthur Davis, and as this one has not been restored, this is the other special one that is going to be restored for this collection. Next up is a Tex Avery one-shot. I'd love to take orders from you. This is one I haven't seen, um, but I think from the clips I've gathered, it does contain some of his trademark Tex Avery style wackiness and humor. Next up is another one I haven't seen. I Was a Teenage Thumb from Chuck Jones, Esquire, and Maurice Noble, I believe. Towards the 60s, Chuck seemed to always want to release a kind of like Oscar bait cartoon like Nellie the Giraffe, Teeny the Elephant, um, or no, Punch Trunk, I think that was, Martian Through Georgia, and this was another one. Those three have since been released on the Golden Collection Volume 6, I believe. And this is I think the only one of those that has never been released on DVD or Blu-ray, so that's why it's included. Next up is the final double dip, and it's from the Looney Tunes Superstars Daffy Duck Frustrated Fowl, and it is the Iceman Ducketh. It's a cartoon where Daffy Duck hunts Bugs Bunny, but Bugs Bunny is aware. It's the one that has the famous uh, toothpaste shield gag. Um, Not the greatest cartoon ever made, but it is it is released in like the widescreen version, so there's no excuse for that anymore. Also, many of the cartoons released on the Platinum collections and Bugs Bunny 80th have been released totally fine, uncropped, and Iceman Ducketh is one of the three or maybe five or six remaining ones that does deserve to get a proper release. Next up is an Oh, that one was directed by Phil Monroe and Maurice Noble, originally planned by Chuck Jones. Next up is another Daffy Robert McKimson cartoon, this time co-starring Elmer, in Quackshot. This to me shows McKimson this to me shows McKimson's strength versus Chuck Jones and Friz Freeling, where those those directors have default winners. Like Tweety is usually a default winner for Friz Freeling. The Roadrunner is usually a default winner in Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons. Um, this is the one. This one shows how it's unpredictable because for chunks of the cartoon, Daffy is getting like blasted because his traps and plans are going wrong. But then there are other times where Elmer Fudd is the butt end of the joke. So as a result, it keeps going back and forth. So some people might find that annoying. For me, I find it very refreshing to where you have no idea, where you don't know who's gonna who's gonna be the butt of the joke for this gag. Next up, another Robert McKimson cartoon, The Mouse-Merized Cat, featuring Babbitt and Catstello. I believe these characters only appeared in like 3 or 4 cartoons. The previous ones have been released on the Golden Collection, um, and one of them was released on the Collector's Choice Volume 1, I believe. This is the final Babbitt and Catstello cartoon, which were originally cats, but after I think their first or maybe their second, they came back as mice. So I remember just a little bit about this cartoon, mainly for the ending and how it involves hypnosis. Next up, a one-shot, directed by Arthur Davis, The Rattled Rooster. I don't know much about this cartoon, but I know that it's restored, so there you go. Next up is one that I just saw last night for the first time, Snowman's Land. Now, no offense, Anthony's Animation, But while you saw hints of what Chuck Jones would do later in his career, for me, I viewed this more as it wouldn't surprise me if Tex Avery got hints for this cartoon when directing Northwest Hounded Police, because there's a lot of gags that are very similar to that cartoon. Um, and actually it actually has some funny gags in it. Next up is another early First Freeling cartoon, Toy Town Hall. It's probably I think it has a lot of like how celebrity caricatures, and as the previous one had Mr. and Mrs. is the name, um, why not? Next up is one of the few unique, in my opinion, Sylvester and Tweety cartoons, Tweet and Sour. This one, despite a very downer of an ending, um, kind of reverses the situation where Sylvester, as opposed to having to where Sylvester trying to eat Tweety, in this he has to kind of protect Tweety and like be his bodyguard. So it puts a spin on the dynamic. I think the other one is Hide and Go Tweet, um which is probably the only other unique one. Next up is a Tex Avery spot gag cartoon, Wacky Wildlife, where it's pretty much a bunch of animal puns for the most part. And another one of Chuck's recurring character bits, Ralph Wolf and Sam Sheepdog. Even yes, okay, I know he didn't direct all of them. Da la 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 la. This one is directed by Phil Monroe and Richard Thompson. By the way, Tween Sour was by Fritz Freeling, as almost all the Sylvester and Tweety cartoons were, apart from Hawaiian I believe. And the cartoon that I'm including is Woolen Underwear. So there you go, that's my collection of 25 cartoons. Yes, some of them are double dipping, but it's not like I'm double dipping from the Platinum collection, or I'm double dipping from uh I don't know, the like a Sniffles from the Mouse Chronicles, or um what's another one? Or Crackpot Quail from the Tex Avery Screwball Classics. All of these cartoons have, well, 23 of them have been restored on Max or Ride or iTunes or the Boomerang app or Prime Video. These 23 of these have been restored overall. So that's my list. Let me know what you think. Okay.